All right, a lot of people's probably top ranked, most hated boss fight in the entire series, Twisted Metal 4 Sweet Tooth. What a freaking bastard. And who thought that special move was a good idea? Clear cut the number one. Might be the overall tournament favorite, in my opinion. Gets a really favorable match, but it's the Twisted Metal 2 Hammerhead card that, I mean, you're just asking for trouble. Warhog, the Joneses. Very interesting 8-9 matchup here. Not the best of these cars, especially with the Joneses, a very mid-tier car with an okay special. Warhog in 3, very strong character in my opinion. Just small 2 Axel with that ram damage going against Roadkill from 3. Axel, really, really strong character, maybe the best non-boss vehicle in that game. Some other notable ones here, you have Warthog, General Warthog, sorry. Twist Metal 3 Sweet Tooth. The 3 seed here is another sub-bossy kind of character that needed to be unlocked. Good special, good armor. Weak physics of that game could really hold it back against a nimble car like Quattro that's really agile. You have Orbital, I think is a really good car, could upset Thumper. And your number 2 seed, another tournament favorite, Twisted Metal 2 Minion. What a menace that guy is against Microblast. We'll see how that works itself out. But Minion, absolute menace in this bracket.
Cut to the chase here. Hammerhead's not the worst option you can get out of the Twisted Metal 2 car, but it's going up against Sweet Tooth. That's the definitive answer. And Sweet Tooth wins. Sweet Tooth wins. It's a no question. I gave him an 8 special move. I think his armor's higher. I mean, this dude might be unbeatable when it comes to this type of bracket. Sweet Tooth advances. Warthog, Twisted Metal 4, the Joneses. I don't want to say they're very similar vehicles. I think that they replaced Warthog with this Joneses archetype vehicle, really, with the special move and things in Twisted Metal 4. Warthog in 3 is a very good vehicle. I know both of these games get shit from the community, but for the most part, I think Twisted Metal 3 Warthog is still a very balanced, overall solid vehicle, even with the shitty game engine that it's in. It doesn't really have the problems that a lot of these other cars have, and I think the special move, I don't agree with this being a 2. I'd say the Jones is more like a 1. Warthog, if it had a freeze, would be a 4, maybe a 5. It's just a good move. The AI also agreed. It said Warthog would win this matchup, again, with the armor advantage. Its handling and speed are relatively... I know that this says 3 and 3. I kind of disagree with it. I just think the Joneses is such a mediocre, low-tier vehicle. It's tough to overcome other cars that do the same things but better. Tier list, most of the time these cars are very even, but that doesn't really matter. Warthog gets the win. Twisted Metal 2 Axel goes against the number 12 Twisted Metal 3 Roadkill. This is an absolutely stacked matchup as far as the first round's concerned. Roadkill and Axel are very solid, balanced cars. I think if we were looking at the games in particular, when it comes to Axel and 2, his special move is such good crowd control. He has maybe the best standard vehicle ram damage in the game. He's absolutely broken, and ram damage doesn't reflect on these lists. This dude would have like a 4 or 5, where Roadkill would have like a 1 or a 2. His special move, I think, is okay. It's similar to the mortar weapon in that game. It's a little less floaty. He's a good car that can take a beating. He has really good handling for that game. Speed's a little bit better than Axel as well. This is one of those matchups where it's tough to say that the stats determine the winner. In this case, I'm going Axel on my personal preference. I think when it comes to where he ranks out in tier list and things, he's always, a little higher in my opinion. Roadkill's a good car, which is why the AI, when I asked it, actually went with Roadkill. I think it looks more towards just the stats output. In a long range battle, roadkill obviously has the advantage, but in most tier lists, Axel, from the standpoint of the base vehicles, is usually ranked just below minion. Roadkill is sort of like that middle of the road car. Very, very, very close matchup, but Axel will advance to the second round. 4 seed and the 13 seed, we have Drag Queen, who I will not comment on beyond the vehicle, and Twisted Metal 1 Warthog. Now, from playing both of these games to get a little bit more familiar with both these characters, these are not characters I traditionally would use. When it comes to Warthog, though, I mean, he might be one of the best vehicles in the first game. He's got insane armor. Like, 4 armor in the original Twisted Metal 1 is a ton, especially for a vehicle like his that can move around decently. Drag Queen in 4 essentially replaces the Thumper archetype with the Flamethrower. It's a car that's built on speed. It's supposed to have a really good special move. I think it's okay. This is high to me, the 3. I would give it maybe like a 1 or a 2 tops. It's a very weak vehicle, but in terms of that gameplay engine, I mean, it's so difficult to track these vehicles down to get one-on-one confrontations with them. They're so fast and hard to hit. I think in the context of a one-on-one battle between these two vehicles, it's going to come down to sort of who can soak up more damage and who can get more reliability out of their special weapon. And for me, that is pretty easy. I'm going Warthog here with this one. If these cars were to collide, Warthog has such great ram damage, it would pretty much deteriorate this Drag Queen armor very quickly. The special move also, with the tracking and stuff, I think it's just a better weapon overall. AI went with Drag Queen on this one. I don't really have a good answer for why, but when it comes to tier list things, Drag Queen's a decently okay car. I'm not saying it's not usable. It's a good vehicle. Warthog, though, depending on which tier list you look, is actually the best character in that game on some. It's absolutely insane, and a lot of it's because of the armor and the ram damage. The special move hits you like a ton of bricks too. It's such a good special move, but in this instance, our 4 seed Warthog will advance to the next round. You have Twisted Metal 1 Thumper, beast special move against General Warthog from Twisted Metal 4. Now, personally, I don't use General Warthog ever. I think he's a disgrace of a character, which he once was. I think his special and armor do not make up for his bad character. It's a cool car. I like the tank look. I just generally do not like this character at all. I think a special weapon, that plant-based mine thing, you can never really get a great solid hit off of it, which at its worst can be a 1. At its best, I think it can actually dead-on hit you and wipe 45-50% of some of the character's health, but that's such an obscure thing to try to count on. Even freezing them and planting the bomb, you don't get a clear, solid middle hit. Thumper, in my opinion, all of the vehicles other than the Twisted Metal 3 one are all just so good. If you want raw, good damage out of a special weapon, this car is the exact one that you want. Now, I will say, it is one of the, I don't want to say weaker vehicles of the early game, but again, if you can get your position on a character and just outright put flame damage on them, it's going to be a very quick and easy win. I think personally, I would go Thumper in this instance. The AI actually said because of superior design, General Warthog would actually win this. And for my personal opinion, when it comes to what the tier lists say, they're very, very similar as far as like who would be kind of like in that B, C tier, maybe D a little bit. Overall, from what I've seen, the consensus is usually out that Thumper kind of ranks higher in those. So Thumper is going to advance to the next round. Sort of Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal 3 against Quattro, or whatever his name is, from Twisted Metal 4. Both of these vehicles are, I don't want to say they're weird, it's hard to rank them. Twisted Metal 3 Sweet Tooth is essentially a unlockable character. He sort of irons out some of the issues with his vehicle, but in that game engine, dear lord, he's barely functional. I like his special move that you can trigger it to explode. It's a very satisfying weapon when it lands. The unfortunate part about him is you spend most of your time on the roof of the car sliding across the level because it literally cannot drive. The vehicle is built like a unsymmetrical box that essentially never keeps its wheels on the ground, and it's a barely functional car to even play with. When you talk about Quattro, I'm not overly high on this character. That's why he's the 14 seed. He has a very basic Axel-like special move that's quick, it does its damage, and you can get in and out. His car is very difficult to deal with, especially on like the harder difficulties. He's so small and hard to pinpoint on screen. Very low special, armor is horrible. I think he's essentially like a Mr. Grimm mixed with some Axel type things. Handling speeds out off the charts. Personally, I hate to pick a character like Quattro in this matchup because I actually really enjoy this Sweet Tooth character, but he's borderline not usable. The AI also went with Quattro here because of his hit and run tactics. You could basically fling Sweet Tooth in this matchup and he would just be on his roof the whole time. I don't know how hard it would be to hit his special move on a character like this, but it would not be very easy to do. In most tier lists, Sweet Tooth kind of flirts in that mid-range, low tier because of his handling. In this instance, this is probably the most overrated 3 seed here of the bracket, essentially because he was sort of a boss unlockable character, but Quattro gets a clean sweep. He's advancing. Up Thumper from Twisted Metal 3 with that big giant sound wave special move against Orbital Twisted Metal 4. Freeze lock, kind of like electrical orb type special. Very even matchup here in my opinion. These are two strong vehicles from both of those games. When it comes to sort of how these characters kind of lock horns here, I mean, Orbital is a card that can kind of like freeze you with the special, continue to do damage, stack that up, then, you know, raw freeze you with the combo input. Thumper sort of the same way. Really needs to get you up against the wall to do maximum output here. I would even put that against like a 4 or 5 special if you get trapped against a space where you can't get away. I mean, me personally, I'm doing Orbital in this just because of the freeze potential of the special move to kind of deal damage, hit and run tactics. The AI actually went with Orbital as well. It's tough to say who is better on the tier list. I mean, these cards are very, very similar in a lot of those. I think either way, though, Orbital goes with the win here. 2 to tie, 2-1 maybe, but Orbital gets the win here and advances the next round. 2 seed Minion Twisted Metal 2 versus Microblast. We're all adults here, right? We can pretty much just, okay, yeah, I thought so. Second round of the South bracket, you have Twisted Metal 4 Sweet Tooth against Twisted Metal 3 Warthog. Now, I have to tell you this out of my own personal understanding of what the AI does and how it calculates these matches. It picked Warthog in our first Sweet Tooth upset potential here. Now, I think that's insane. I don't know how the AI came to that determination. I'm not going to argue with it too much because it has some information about this matchup I do not. But essentially replaying with Sweet Tooth and Warthog to kind of comprehend what's going on here. Sweet Tooth can just fire that thing and basically sit and file his nails in his truck, while Warthog takes 3 force damage health and has to limp into trying to escape the second one that comes out, and that thing recharges so fast it's disgusting. I think Warthog isn't a pushover by any means necessary. He, I think, would be able to put up somewhat of a little bit of a fight here. His armor kind of helps him shield against some of that bullshit that's coming at him with this Sweet Tooth character, but there's literally no potential scenario that I could understand how the AI is thinking Warthog wins this matchup. I also have to give the tier list, because Sweet Tooth essentially is immediately an S tier and everyone else falls below him because that's how disgusting he is in this game. Warthog doesn't go out with getting blank 3-0, but I mean, this is a clear-cut Sweet Tooth victory here. We have Axel Twisted Metal 2 versus Warthog Twisted Metal 1. what a matchup this is to advance to the Sweet 16 here. My personal take on this matchup, it's very interesting and it's very even. This is two vehicles with extremely good ram damage, especially in those early games. I would edge it out to Axel slightly. He could combine that with his special move. You know, I could argue that you could say the same thing about Warthog with his. Ton of impact damage from both of these vehicles. Armor-wise, it looks like Warthog's slightly better. Handling and speed, though, is where sort of this matchup. I don't want to say Axel would have an advantage. He's a big target. I think personally, from how these two match up in a close quarters battle where it's just who has the biggest member, I have to edge this out to Axel on a personal opinion basis. I just think playing both of these vehicles, you get such... I don't know. It's hard to explain. I just feel like Axel in those scenarios would be a better candidate to pull that out. His aggressiveness with his AI, that Axel power nonsense, it just haunts my memory. And I think out of those vehicles in that game, even from like a tier list perspective, most times he comes out on top. This was a tough one for the AI to decide, but the edge came out to Axel slightly. I mean, it was very tough to get the AI to give me a clear-cut answer on who would come out as the winner in this situation, but Axel does get the win. Axel advances to the Sweet 16. Axel power. Second round, we have Twisted Metal 1 Thumper, Twisted Metal 4 Quattro. Now, I'm surprised Quattro was able to sneak in here, but the AI is really high on this vehicle. So why don't we start with the AI here? In a matchup like this, the AI seems to think that Quattro has the advantage. It says its hit and run tactics are too good. It's got superior design as far as like a Twisted Metal 1 vehicle goes. It's just going to be too much for a car like Thumper to handle. Now, let's go to the tier list here. Tier list, basically, most of the ones I see, Quattro's in that B to C range. Twisted Metal 1 Thumper is in that A-ish range for the most part. Strong special move. Again, it's tough to argue against a 5-star special in any of these games. The armor is still really, really strong. I mean, it's like Warthog durability. Handling and stuff is okay, but the speed, again, it gives it such a good advantage against a car like Quattro to kind of chase it down, get into position to win. So the tier list, we're going with Thumper. Now, my personal opinion from playing both of these vehicles, and again, I think Quattro is essentially the basic Axel replacement. It's like a 360 kind of like burst move. It doesn't put you on fire or anything. It just gets you off. Like, it's not meant for damage output. Thumper, in my opinion, though, is still from an era of ram damage is king, which this is not a car that's built upon that, but it is a vehicle that is very damage output heavy, and it can absorb a ton of damage. I just don't see someone like Quattro being able to output enough damage to offset what Thumper would do back. And for that reason, I'm going with the Pink Killer. Thumper advances to the Sweet 16. In the Sweet 16, the South bracket, we have Twisted Metal 2 Minion against Twisted Metal 4 Orbital. Now, for the most part, I think Minion is one of the strongest vehicles across any Twisted Metal game. Huge car, insane ram damage. The special move is absolutely devastating. He can stun lock you to death at times and just run through you, and you're basically then down to your last little shred of health. You can't really outrun this guy. He's so much to overcome. As far as the tier list go, Minion wins on every single one of them. The AI also, easily gave this one to Minion. It would take very hard circumstantial positions to get Quattro in a Minion, even to have a close matchup. I think this is one of those vehicles where the special move from Quattro doesn't really pay dividends. You don't need to track this guy down, and even if he freezes him, does a ton of damage as far as like the other moves while he's frozen, continues the freeze process. He has to mess up one time before Minion just outright hits him with a special move and just basically ends the matchup. Minion gets this clean sweep here and advances. winners of this bracket. You have Twisted Metal 4 Sweet Tooth, the number one, maybe the best car in the tournament, going to face Twisted Metal 2 Axel in a very, very weird matchup there. You have Twisted Metal 1 Thumper overcoming pretty tough opponents to make his way to the Sweet 16 against Twisted Metal 2 Minion, who is one of my personal faves of this bracket. We'll see next time who comes in and gets those final 4 Sweet 16 spots. Stay tuned.